Good morning, and from prehistoric to present, my name is Ethan. Welcome to Creature Guide Live Daily News. Remember to like, comment, and if you love animals, share this show with everyone you know. Now, let's get into the animal news of the day, starting off with an article by MontanaOutdoor.com. German Shepherd takes on wolf at Yellowstone National Park. So, see what. Oh, well, he looks happy. Wolf just looks stunned. He's like, Grandpa. It's like, no, I swear, that's not me. That guy was over in Europe. No, 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 no. Apparently, two subpopulations created me. You're one of them. No, you must be mistaken. A recent Outdoor Life article included information about a German Shepherd that launched itself from a moving Jeep in Yellowstone last Friday to chase a wild gray wolf. Because, of course, it did. Captured in a crazy photo series by guide McNeil Lyons, Yellowstone Insight, the chaos peaked when the two canines squared off on the road south of Canyon Village. It was a stare down for a hot second. Lyons told Outdoor Life, no bites, no barks, just a dog with bad judgment and a strong recall. The owner, a Florida man, got slapped with multiple citations and faced a court date in July. I think that's honestly insane, but so far there doesn't seem to have been any attack between the animals. Um, According to the article, Lyons later defended the guy, calling it an accident, including that the real insanity came from phone holding tourists who stampeded toward the wolf like it was a selfie station. Here's part of what Yellowstone Insight posted about the incident on their Facebook page. Many are quick to judge this situation. The guardian of this dog might not have realized the back window was open. It was the dog that made its own decision. We are all human. We all make mistakes. If there's a finger to point at this moment, it should be pointed towards the countless people, some with zoom camera lenses, who ran in the direction of the approaching wolf. Oh, well, yeah, that'll spook the wolf. Stay in your car if blah blah blah. So in summary, try not to let your dog chase wolves. Remember that YMP is not a Disney movie set. I don't know what it means by that. Can't think of any Disney movie where there was a dog and wolf square off. However, Yellowstone Insight Private Tours really does know where to find wildlife at YNP. Um, oh, okay. Yeah, so this is taking place at Yellowstone National Park in Wyoming. Um, yeah, he just seems concerned, but he seems pretty happy. This doesn't seem to be any like negative sort of conflict. I think he's just saying hi. I think it's insane what the government did to the guy. Just the dog happened to jump out, and maybe he likes watching documentaries, and he maybe wanted to get a selfie with the wolf too, um, or join his pack. But no, this is interesting, and it's pretty funny too. It's kind of nice to see. Okay, let me know what your thoughts are on this article. And thank you for joining Creature Guide Live. Now, let's jump into the next article, which is by NBC News. Discovery of 50,000-year-old baby mammoth is a big boon to researchers. The remains were found with no damage to the head, trunk, ears, and mouth, and said the rector of the Lazarev Mammoth Museum Laboratory at Northeastern Federal University in Yakutsk. Oh, is this the mummy? Oh, that looks pretty good. Researchers inspect the remains of a baby mammoth found in the Siberian permafrost in Russia's Batagag crater. A team of scientists has unveiled a baby mammoth that lay almost perfectly preserved for 50,000 years in the now melting permafrost of eastern Siberia. The mammoth was a unique research find, with scientists all surprised by its exceptional preservation, said Anatoly Nikolaev, rector of the Lazarev Mammoth Museum Laboratory of Northeastern Federal University in Yakutsk in eastern Siberia. The body showed no signs of damage to the head, trunk, ears, and mouth, he said. Yeah, it looks like a really well preserved mummy if this is the right picture. There have been over 25 different mammoth mummies that have been discovered within Russia alone, not including different mummies that have been found in different parts of Alaska and the Yukon in North America. Let's see. Okay, so this is taking place over in eastern Russia. The scientists said in a news release Monday that the carcass of the baby mammoth, dubbed Yana, after the Yana River basin where it was found in eastern Siberia in Russia, is definitely the best preserved in the world. Researchers un oh, yeah, it seemed yeah, much better than some of the other mummies. Yeah, you can even see some of the fur still slightly intact. Yeah, trunk seems to be you can see the wrinkles on it. That's good condition. The mouth, there's the eye socket and little ears. Researchers unveiled the carcass Monday. It was only the seventh baby mammoth carcass discovered globally. Unveiled. Hmm? Oh, unveiled. Carcass Monday. Discovered globally, six in Russia and one in Canada. I'm pretty sure we have. Okay, maybe in this sort of condition. This is what they mean by that few in number, but we have found many more um, mammoth preservations. One in Canada. The mammoth is 4 feet tall and weighs about 400 pounds and is less than 6.6 feet long, the news release said. Wow, that is a very young calf. I mean, it might have been a few weeks old, if that. So, like, maybe 3 or 4 weeks because, woolly mammoths, they didn't become much larger than Asian elephants, so we're talking about animals that weigh somewhere around 6 tons at most, and, also about as tall. They don't usually exceed somewhere around 9 to around 9.5 feet, but, 4 feet, 400 pounds. Yeah, that's basically a newborn. The discovery is expected to provide valuable insights into the development of mammoths, their adaptive traits, the environmental conditions of their ice age habitats, and other important aspects of their lives. Maxim Cheprasov, the head of the laboratory, said in the statement. Local residents found Yana in June in the Batagayka crater, the world's largest permafrost crater, which is widening as a result of climate change as the ground melts, statement said. The Russian state media outlet TASS said residents of the village of Bataga discovered it. Sometimes it's like mammoths are the only reason why people care about Siberia. Because at least in my mind, it's not just mammoths. You have different types of Pleistocene or Ice Age prehistoric mammals being found here. But outside that, it's a pretty boring. It's a boring place. Um, the discovery is. Oh, I already mentioned that. Um, The Russian state media outlet TASS said residents of the village of Badiga discovered it. The locals happened to be at Badigayka at the right time and noticed that the mammoth calf had partially thawed from the wall about 130 feet below the surface, Cheprasov told TASS. Um, okay, so probably along the sediment here. Um, Wait a second. Researchers Gavril Nogrodov and Errol Strucklove post next to the remains of a baby mammoth discovered in June. Hold on a second. I had a feeling. So is this not the right one? I wonder if this is an older specimen because where's the head? S- It did? Oh, right. Yeah, but yeah, I guess they haven't found the whole thing in this instance. It looks cut off. Yeah, yeah, they're just like part of like the second half of the body. Hmm. The mammoth is estimated to have been 1 year old when it died, the release said. However, scientists at Mammoth Museum Laboratory, which specializes in the study of mammoths and their ice age environment, is conducting further studies to confirm exactly how old it was. Um, 1 year, that I would expect it to be much heavier at a year old. 400 pounds? According to their website, they are collaborating with genetic researchers from other regions of the Russian Federation to uncover more about Yana's life and environment. Okay, blah, blah, blah. In 2020, scientists in the Yakutia, the northeastern part of Siberia, unearthed part of a mummified saber-toothed cat estimated to be 32,000 years old. The next year, researchers discovered the remains of a 44,000-year-old wolf in the same region. Wait, is that all of the mammoth? Hmm. I still think if it really was 400 pounds, it's going to be quite young. Well, let me know what your thoughts are on this article in the comments, and thank you for joining Creature God Live. Now let's dive into the next article, which has been posted by mysantonio.com. Texas squirrels are spooning again to heat. Here's what it means. Oh yeah. Okay, being from Texas, I've seen this. This means they're just trying to stay as cool as possible. Texas Parks and Wildlife Department shared a photo of how squirrels feel in the heat. Texas squirrels are splooting again due to heat. As an early heat wave hits Texas, the weird phenomenon called splooting returns among squirrels. Every year, a cute photo or funny video of the tiny animals uh, participating in splooting circulates on social media. It is funny, but then it's like you kind of feel bad for these guys. You just want to give them like a frozen watermelon or cantaloupe. Oh, better just give them some peanuts. This year, the practice of staying cool has arrived earlier. And don't give them salted peanuts. Just give them raw peanuts or roasted, just raw. The Texas Parks and Wildlife Department posted on X on Tuesday, May 13th, a picture of the three squirrels lying flat on on their bellies with their arms and legs spread out, which is called splooting. Splooting season came early this year. TPWD wrote in its post. Parts of Texas are facing triple digits. Don't mess with Texas heat. For the past several years, the splooting term has been shared many times after several park officials across the country started posting about squirrels sprawled out face down with their limbs outstretched. Yeah, this isn't new. The Washington Post describes splooting as another term for heat dumping. The squirrels performed this move to reduce body heat on cool surfaces. Did this newspaper um, cite the Washington Post as a source for squirrel behavior? Why? Don't do that. Just uh, veterinarians and experts believe the animals assumed the post to beat the heat, extending their surface area to cool down, the Washington Post reported. Why are you what are you telling me you got all of this from the Washington Post? There's not a study on here. There's not in Texas animals are likely splooting early thanks What? In Texas, animals are likely splooting early thanks to the heat wave taking over Texas. The National Weather Service said the early season heat wave is developing this week in south central Texas with peaks from mid to late week. San Antonio and Austin will likely experience historic and unusually high temperatures for this time of year. Oh, with the cities reaching 100 degrees or greater each afternoon, according to the NWS. The cities will have records likely to be tied or broken. They say that every year with San Antonio and Austin. It, and I don't care. But you didn't show anyway. They'll be okay. The fox squirrels that exist down in Texas, the different species of rock squirrels that you can also find in different parts of the western United States, um, even different species of squirrels like the not the red squirrel, they're more northern. All of the different species of squirrels in like the eastern United States, especially the southeast, they are well adapted to these types of weather conditions. So this this is kind of goofy, but more of just like posting that newspaper as a source. Um, Let me know what your thoughts are on this article in the comments, and thank you for joining Creature Guide Live. Now, let's get into the next article by BBC.com. Dog sized dinosaur that ran around feet of giants discovered. So it looks like some sort of a neo ornithischian. So these animals lived during the late Jurassic over 150 million years ago. So animals such as Nanosaurus is one of the more famous members of the group. Megalosaurus. See, so full name of the new species is Enigma cursor Mollyborth. And I'm guessing this is a close relative of Nanosaurus. A Labrador sized dinosaur was wrongly categorized when it was found and is actually a new species, scientists have discovered. Yeah, this looks very similar to um, Nanosaurus's skull. Its new name is Enigma cursor, meaning puzzling runner. Hmm. They were quite agile. They had the early Neo Ornithischians had very long shin bones, and at least compared to their thigh bone, and with that, decently sized ankle bones. It lived about 150 million years ago, running around the feet of famous giants like the Stegosaurus. Well, it also depends on what species of Stegosaurus you're talking about. Um, because like depending on where this animal was found, you're going to have a certain species of Stegosaurus. So is it? I'm guessing it's talking about Stegosaurus steniops, which is the more common Stegosaurus species that people tend to think of. Though usually in many reconstructions, its plates tend to be a bit oversized, and the larger plates belong to Stegosaurus ungulatus. It was originally classified as a nanosaurus, but scientists now conclude it as a different animal. On Thursday, it will become the first new dinosaur to go on display at the Natural History Museum in London since 2014. What? You haven't had a new dinosaur since 2014? I That's okay. We need to improve that like by a lot. You're one of the best museums on earth. BBC News went behind the scenes to see the dinosaur before it will be revealed to the public. The discovery promises to shed light on the evolutionary history that saw early small dinosaurs become very large and bizarre animals. According to Professor Paul Barrett, a paleontologist at the museum. When we visit the designer of a special glass display case for the Enigma cursor is making last minute checks. The dinosaur's new home is a balcony in the museum's impressive Earth Hall. Below it is Sophie the Stegosaurus, who also lived in the Morrison Formation in the western United States. Sophie. Um, Enigma cursor is tiny by comparison at 64 centimeters long and 180 centimeters long. No, at 64 centimeters tall and 180 centimeters long. It is about the height of a Labrador, but with much bigger feet and a tail that was probably longer than the rest of the dinosaur. Yeah, so this animal was what, somewhere around uh, probably like 6 feet in length and s- 2 feet tall. So the early Neo-Ornithischians were quite small. Nanosaurus was possibly it was close to the same size. Now it's mentioning it had much bigger feet because the toes were much longer compared to its body size than something like a Labrador or even a wolf. And like wolves, dinosaurs did walk only on their toes, just like even birds today. Oh, and most likely this animal would have been herbivorous, so it's going to be feeding on a variety of different species of ferns, ginkgos in the area, maybe even fallen conifer tree branches. It also had a relatively small head, so it's probably not the brightest. She adds, adding that it was probably a teenager when it died. These animals were very intelligent. And also, the smaller the dinosaur, it's very possible that the more intelligent the animal was. But this would be a better it would this statement would match a bit more with animals like the sauropods, but even they were probably had a decent amount of intelligence. But the Neornithischians were pretty. I'd say they're about as bright as certain species of birds today. With the fossilized remains of its bones in their hands, conservators Lou Allington Jones and Karen Miles expertly assemble the skeleton onto a metal frame. I don't want to damage it at this stage before it's revealed to everybody, says Miss Allington Jones, head of conservation. Oh, okay, so they're making the model here. Um, these might be the real specimens if they're cleaned that are simply being wired to the main frame. And this is the case with a certain Nanosaurus specimen that has been reconstructed at the Houston Museum of Natural Science. Here you can see the solid, dense hip bones showing you it was a fast running dinosaur, but the front arms are much smaller and off the ground. Perhaps it's used them to shovel plants in its mouth with hands, says Mr. Miles. It was clue it was clues in the bones that led scientists at NHM to conclude the creature was a new species. When we're trying to identify if something is a new species, we're looking for small differences with all of the other closely related dinosaurs. Leg bones are really important in this one, says Professor Megment, holding the right hind limb of the Enigma cursor. When the dinosaurs, also, I'd say, yeah, when looking at whether or not this type of an animal is going to be a quick runner, it's also essential to look at the ankle bones, shin bones relative to the thigh bone, especially when you're looking at something like a cheetah and they have very long shin bones, like the Neo-Ornithischia dinosaurs, even certain species of dromaeosaur, not dromaeosaur, ornithomimid, compared to their thigh bone. Um, When the dinosaur was donated to the museum, it was named Nanosaurus, like many other small dinosaurs named since the 1870s. Um, there were a variety of different smaller species of dinosaurs that were found back in the late 1800s that were not named specifically Nanosaurus. Now, it might be relating to other just small Neo-Ornithischians in general, but only a handful might have been placed with Nanosaurus. But I think what this is trying to state is that Nanosaurus has been a bit of a waste basket, kind of like what has happened to certain animals like Iguanodon. And there have been a variety of different types of specimens that have been found, and they weren't exactly sure. They couldn't figure out at the moment who they might have belonged to. It could have been another species of dinosaur that has already been found, or it was a new species. They just stuck it in with Iguanodon because it had similar. Its bones looked somewhat similar to Iguanodon, and oh, geez, there are over 80 different species. No, over 100 different species of different iguanodontids. But with Stanosaurus, it was a similar thing. That could be what it's pointing to is that it was made as a wastebasket. Okay, this limb looks similar. We don't know what it is. Just put it with nanosaurus. Maybe decades later we'll come back to it. Um, Also in the late 1800s, it tends to be left out, but there were hundreds of different species of dinosaur that have been discovered, especially during the bone wars between the paleontologist Othniel um was it Othniel Charles Marsh and Edward Drinker Cope, and they were competing with each other on how many different species they could find. I think between the two, they found over 80 different species of animals. Like, each finding, I think, at least over 40 different species, um, including animals such as the famous Triceratops, Tyrannosaurus Rex, Stegosaurus. I think just certain dinosaurs that they discovered hadn't been classified until the early 1900s. And they weren't the only paleontologists at the time either. Many tend to associate just with those two during that time, and there were many others, especially not just in the United States, but over in England, different parts of Germany, Canada. But scientists suspected that categorization was false. To find out more, they traveled to the United States with scans of the skeleton, detailed photographs to see the original nanosaurus as considered the archetype specimen. But it didn't have any bones. It's just a rock with some impressions of bone in it. It could be any number of dinosaurs, Professor Bainman said. So this is her. Okay, Susanna. So she's holding, I'm guessing, a Nanosaurus shin bone. Hmm. In contrast, the NHM specimen was a sophisticated and near to complete skeleton with unique features, including its leg bones. Untangling this mystery around the names and categorization is essential, paleontologists say. It's absolutely foundational to our work to understand how many species we actually have. If we've got that wrong, everything else falls apart, says Professor Mayman. Um, the scientists actually, that can occur quite a bit. There have been many instances when it was thought that there were actually a variety of different species, and it turned out to be just like one or two. The scientists have now formally erased the whole category of Nanosaurus. They believe that the other small dinosaur specimens from this period are probably also distinct species. The discovery should help the scientists understand the diversity of dinosaurs in the late Jurassic period. Um, I'm guessing we're talking about specifically the United States and probably relating to the Morrison Formation. So this is also where you can find different species of larger dinosaurs like Diplodocus and Allosaurus, Brachiosaurus, specifically Brachiosaurus ultrox and Diplodocus carnegie. Smaller dinosaurs are very close to the origins of the large groups of dinosaurs that become much more prominent later on, says Professor Bart. Specimens like this help fill in some of those gaps in our knowledge, showing us how those changes occur gradually over time, he adds. Looking at these early creatures helped them identify the pressures that finally led to the evolution of their more bizarre, gigantic descendants, said Professor Barrett. So I think here is where they're reconstructing the I forgot his name. It's not the Nanosaurus. Who are you? Nope. Okay. Enigma Cursor. Yeah, so he's a bit, I think he's slightly smaller than Nanosaurus possibly, or maybe it's supposed to be a younger individual. But the Neoornithischians, yeah, if you look at their toes, they are much longer compared to their body size than many other species of dinosaurs, even certain types of theropods, just relative to the overall body size, not that they have the largest, which is far from true. Scientists are excited to have such a rare, complete skeleton of a small dinosaur. Traditionally, big dinosaur bones have been the biggest prize, so there has been less interest in digging out smaller fossils. Um, I wouldn't say that, like, they're making out like there's people have absolutely no interest in finding smaller species of dinosaurs. The paleo community gets extremely excited when small dinosaurs are discovered. I'd say with larger dinosaurs these days, it's nice when there's um, different species being discovered. Now, it's not that we don't get excited when something like a complete fossil of something like a T Rex or a Triceratops is discovered, but um, mo- it's pretty exciting when we hear about a smaller species like a relative of Nanosaurus. When you're looking for those very big dinosaurs, sometimes it's easy to overlook the smaller ones living alongside them. But now I hope people will keep their eyes close to the ground looking for these little ones, says Professor Barrett. The findings about Enigmacuser mollyborthwicki are published in the journal Royal Society Open Science. Well, this is good to know. I like these little neo-ornithischians. They're fun. And um, hope we keep finding more. So this was really interesting. It's so far there's also not really any evidence for the neo-ornithischians having feathers either, despite many species of these animals, even the hyph- Hycephalodonts being reconstructed with feathers, but um, s- still highly debatable. Okay, well, let me know what your thoughts are on this article in the comments, and thank you for joining Creature Guide Live. Now let's dive into the next article. By Yahoo News. Critical region behind unusual sight in Aussie trees. Frontline defense. In certain parts of Australia, people wandering through national parks might start to see some unfamiliar sights when they look up. So, something about this band around the trees. Use of black bands is a simple but effective tool employed by wildlife parks and councils across Australia, helping to keep animals safe. If you've recently visited National Park in southeastern Queensland, you might have spotted some unusual black bands wrapped around certain trees. Far from being a quirky decoration, these bands play a vital role in protecting one of Australia's most iconic and vulnerable animals, the koala. Speaking to Yahoo News, a spokesperson from Queensland's Department of Environment, Science, Tourism, and Innovation explained the science of these tree bands at David Flea Wildlife Park. We put black bands around selected trees to protect the koalas and prevent them from climbing any further. This spokesperson said, this biosecurity measure is crucial for safeguarding both captive and wild koalas from spreading diseases. It also helps prevent unplanned breeding and injury caused by fighting, which can threaten already fragile populations. Koalas face increasing threats across Australia. Mm, okay, so this is taking place at David Flea Wildlife Park. Um, there's somewhere between 2 to 300,000 koalas. So now there are certain populations that do have certain diseases, and you could say that their biggest threats are deforestation and then the diseases. As well as the invasive, like feral cats and dogs within the region. The native dingoes have much less of an impact on them. Usually because much of the time they can't reach the koalas. They're over in the um, variety of different species of eucalyptus tree. These tree guards aren't just about keeping animals in or out, she said. They're a frontline defense to protect our koalas from wildlife populations carrying diseases like chlamydia, which is unfortunately widespread in southeast Queensland. Preventing contact between healthy captive koalas and sick wild ones helps stop the spread of this debilitating illness. Hmm. So basically, yeah, it's creating a physical barrier that koalas cannot grip or climb across. Probably, yeah, so to keep them from venturing into those possibly diseased populations. The tree guards work by creating a physical barrier that koalas cannot grip or climb across, typically made from smooth or slippery materials like plastic or metal. The bands are wrapped tightly around the trunk, making it possible for koalas to gain traction with their claws. Since koalas rely on rough bark and a strong grip to scale trees, I wouldn't call eucalyptus as tough as bark as like certain oak trees. Um, Oh, the smooth surface of the guard effectively blocks their scent or descent. This not only prevents captive koalas from climbing out of their enclosures, but also stops wild or potentially diseased koalas from climbing in, helping to maintain a healthy, controlled environment. I'm not familiar with this wildlife park, so I'm guessing they just have a large enclosure because it made it out like they're putting this in different national parks, but it's just mentioning this one wildlife park, the David Flea Wildlife Park. Hmm. Um, with 3 koalas living in the park as ambassadors for their species, that oh, the I find it kind of amusing because is this just around 3 koalas? Like you made it out like this is protecting hundreds of them. Instead, it's like no, it's just 3 dudes, three mates, and um, the black vans help ensure these special residents don't wander beyond their safe enclosure or come into contact with unfamiliar or aggressive koalas. It's also about preventing them from leaving the enclosure and risking injury or stress. Ranger Sarah explained. The use of black bands is a simple but effective tool employed by wildlife parks and councils across Australia, helping to keep climbing animals like possums and koalas safe, contained, and protected. So I'm guessing they're using this in different wildlife parks, rescue centers, sanctuaries. So basically, in some instances, it's like a different version of a rescue center, but can also be just a certain protected area, just a different version of a national park or a national forest. Um, let's see, where else? Yeah, that they're just putting these different bands to keep certain koala populations safe from, I'm guessing, the diseased ones, or maybe certain inbred populations. So next time you see these bands on trees, remember they're more than just markings. They're a vital symbol of the ongoing commitment to protect and preserve our beloved koalas for generations to come. Well, I think another big problem is the cats in the region and the feral dogs. So they're a big problem. Even other invasive species like the foxes that have wreaked havoc on even smaller different species of marsupial within Australia, especially different species of wallabies, other kangaroos. See animals even like the betong, which is a member of the macropod family of marsupials, and um, even the wombats occasionally. But this was interesting. Um, hopefully, this helps with at least the certain species or the certain populations of koalas that do not have diseases or they're not inbred benefit off of this, and their population continues to increase. Except for these 3 mates down here. I don't know what to say about these guys. If this is one of them, well, I'm happy for him. He looks relaxed. So let me know what your thoughts are on this article from Land Down Under. And thank you for joining Creature Guide Live. Now, let's dive into the next article by The Conservation. Fossils show colonies of reptiles lived communally 250 million years ago, new South African study. Yes, there have been many species of Permian um, proto mammals that have been discovered within South Africa. It is a haven for animals like the different species of the saber-toothed gorgonopsians at the time, which are very distant relatives to the famous saber-toothed cats of um, the Pleistocene. And like this is around 250 million years ago, which is close to the time that they went extinct. And well, certain proto mammals would live on to the Triassic period, but another thing is the tusked Lystrosaurus is very common in South Africa. There are certain regions where you can walk within the country and they're just everywhere. You're literally stepping on Lystrosaur fossils. Um, okay, so what are we looking at here? The Procolophon trigonoceps fossils found in South Africa. Yes, these look it's very nice. A fossilized colony of small burrowing reptiles that lived some 250 million years ago was recently found in South Africa. It's the first time that the Procolophon trigonoceps, which lived in the lowlands of what was then the ancient supercontinent of Gondwana, today the central Karoo, I'm guessing that's the area within South Africa, has been found to have lived and died communally in complex underground burrows. Up till now, they have only been found as single specimens. Oh, okay. So for um, Procolophon, this is very nice. So there's at least two of them. Could be the members of a third one here. Doesn't say the approximate number though. They look great. With a short neck, long body, and long tail, the Pucalophon trigonoceps was about half a meter long. So I'm guessing somewhere around close to 1.5 feet. Roughly the same size as a juvenile monitor lizard. It had a broad and flat. Oh, yeah, that's specific. It had a broad, flat topped skull with distinctive horns that pointed backwards and enlarged chisel like teeth designed to crush tough plants and maybe even freshwater crayfish. So it's very possible these animals might have been quite carnivorous. Certain species that related to this animal might have been a bit more herbivorous. Um, but yeah, the reason why I mentioned that it's not very specific when you compare it to monitor lizards because there's several different species of monitor lizard, and 1.5 feet long is very small. Especially you're talking about a crocodile monitor. I mean, that's pretty much a baby. Fossils of the lizard shaped animal itself were first found in 1876 near Tarkastad in South Africa's Eastern Cape. Since then, it's been found in Brazil and Antarctica, but this is the first time that paleontologists have found a group of fossils of different sizes, meaning adults and juveniles in bone on bone contact. This suggests that before they died, they were huddling together to stabilize their body temperature. Hmm, and conclusively shows that they lived and died together. Oh, this is interesting. So they almost have a sort of this is a bit of a behavior that we have found in many species of amphibian back in the Permian, even the Triassic period. Before this finding, communal underground living was assumed to have begun with mammals. However, the no, there have been other instances in the Permian alone, so between around 300 to 249 million years ago, that there have been other findings with amphibians and not in burrows, not just amphibians. There was an instance where there was an amphibian with a proto mammal inside of a burrow. So this isn't the first. Um, however, the Procolophon lived 20 million years before the first mammal evolved. For the past 3 years, I've headed a research team that used neutron tomography similar to X rays to look into rock and produce 3D images of the Procolophon skeletons inside. We were amazed to be able to clearly identify an adult Procolophon skeleton lying curled up on the bottom of a large space or chamber at the end of the burrow with the scattered bones of a juvenile lying on top. Oh, that's that's pretty good. Our research found that these ancient reptiles use their front limbs. Oh, we're looking at reptiles, right? Okay. Um, he said was soon to have begun. Might have been found already with reptiles as well. Definitely not mammals. We already knew that there were other animals. We found animals such as the amphibian Diplodocus that lived much earlier in the Permian, somewhere around 290 million years ago, discovered in burrows, even with instances where it's possible that Dimetrodon, this technically one of the most famous prehistoric sailback um, proto mammals, that possibly literally bit off part of the tops of the skulls of burrowing Diplodocus that were protruding out of their holes, like within their burrows. So, now granted, that's an amphibian. Now, it's mentioning reptile, possibly. This might be one of the first. Okay, our research found that these ancient reptiles use their front limbs to dig tunnels approximately 1 meter below the surface and then carve out chambers where they live together. Okay, so this is interesting. We now know for the first time that the reason we find Procolophon trigonoceps fossils in batches is that sand and mud from flash floods sometimes filled their burrows, burying them while they hibernated. This is often the case with very well preserved specimens, especially of animals like the protomammals, amphibians, and the um, earlier larger species of reptile in different Permian basins. This is how today, in the rock outcrops of the central Karoo region of South Africa, we've been able to find some of these ancient colonies spectacularly fossilized with their occupants still intact. Our research involved interpreting the ancient environment, the landscapes, climate, and ecosystems of that time. We then analyzed the anatomy of the skeletons to confirm that these animals were capable of digging underground. Okay, so they could have dug their burrows. There are many cases where different types of animals, it can be either reptiles or amphibians or mammals, will steal each other's burrows. Like think of many cases, snakes might steal armadillo burrows over in different parts of Florida. Um, I think certain species of marsupial over in Australia might steal wombat burrows or just coexist with them. We also studied the outside surfaces of the infilled burrows and found scratch marks that closely match the width and spacing of the front claws of adult Procolophon skeletons. This made us more certain that the animals dug these burrows to shelter from extreme heat and cold conditions up on the floodplain surface. They could have they could also have been trying to escape from unpredictable rainfall and fluctuating daily temperatures. Okay, so these animals were also quite adaptive. So there were definitely dry and wet seasons occurring, and looks like they were pretty well adapted to it. This was the period just after the end Permian mass extinction, Earth's biggest mass extinction, even to date, in a time of extreme storms and long dry seasons, something like today's monsoonal climate. Our research suggests that they dug their burrows into soil situated close to ponds that would have been surrounded by ferns and trees as their main food source. These areas were ideal for digging simple slopping tunnels down to about 1 meter or 3.3 feet, sloping below the floodplain surface. Yeah, and in these instances, you could have had situations where a flood could easily bury them. From the layering of the burrows, we notice that these small reptiles reused abandoned burrows as well as digging new burrows in the same place for several decades. Now, certain species of mammals will do a similar thing. Um, at least with certain species of foxes, they will use the same burrows for decades, like several generations. But reusing abandoned burrows, that's interesting with these reptiles. Over this long period, the number of burrows dug close to each other increased to form a complex or township that we now interpret as a colony. Fossils of the same species from rocks of roughly the same age have also been found in Brazil and Antarctica. This led us to ask how this small, cold blooded ectothermic reptile had managed to spread out over a distance of 3,000 kilometers all along the lowlands of southern Gondwana at this time. Okay. So they are also, it seems like they're quite common. They're just not usually found amongst each other, kind of like in this incident. We were fortunate to have Brazilian researchers once, Cisneros and Felipe Pinheiro on the team. They were able to confirm that the fossils found in South Africa, Brazil, and Antarctica were all the same species. So this was a very, this animal thrived within the region. We concluded that the reason I mentioned that is because there are often many incidents where the animal can be quite well known, but it's not very common to find within different fossil formations. Like if you look at, especially the Morrison Formation, so during the late Jurassic in different parts of Colorado, Wyoming, Utah, New Mexico, one of the most famous, one of the most common animals to discover within the Morrison Formation is the predatory Allosaurus fragilis. Whereas many of the different species of herbivores that it coexisted with are not as common, which is interesting. So this seems to be a similar thing with this reptile, this carnivorous reptile. Um, We concluded that the reason Procolophon was able to survive as a species and spread out over such a huge distance was its ability to dig underground shelters and to form colonies. This protected them from extreme weather, predators, and allowed them to establish breeding colonies. Through this work, we have found, so it sounds like these animals were almost like the giant mole rats of the region, um, or you could say prairie dogs to an extent. Through this work, we have found evidence that supports previous suggestions that Procolophon was a burrower. We have now been able to propose it was also a group living and possibly socially communal reptile. Although they are not related, we think that Procolophon lived in a similar way to the desert tortoise, Gophurus agassizi, which is the genus and species for the desert tortoise, that lives today in the arid parts of the southwestern United States and Mexico. These findings mean we can now see that communal living among land living reptiles happened further back in time than we thought. To find out more, we took this scratch marked burrowcast to the Australian Neutron Tomography Laboratory at the Australian Nuclear Science and Technology Organization in Sydney for further investigation. It was here that we were able to find evidence that the animals reused abandoned burrows and likely laid their eggs in the terminal chambers. Wow. Okay, so we found a lot about Procolophon. Hmm. Yeah, there are different species of reptile that have been found in different parts of Texas that also have had a similar like lifestyle to Procolophon. But they lived much earlier in the Permian. That was around 290 million years ago, where this is at the very end, around 250 million years ago. Right as the Triassic hit. Okay, well, let me know what your thoughts are in the comments, and thank you for joining Creature Guide Live. Now, let's head over to the next article. Posted by Yahoo News. Fisherman's incredibly rare encounter with crazy creature off Aussie coast. Yep. Two young skippers reeled in the giant oarfish in the top end last week, despite the usually hidden animals rarely seen in the ocean. Well. What do we have here? Two young fishermen reeled in the mega oarfish while fishing in the top end last week. So, oarfish, this isn't a new species, but it's not, yeah, I'd say very commonly seen. But these animals are carnivorous, but they don't go after people or even large species of fish. They're mostly going after smaller species of squid, even krill in some instances, maybe certain like small species of fish, but usually like they prefer squid. Um, they can also reach a length of somewhere around 26 feet. So this isn't even a very long one. On average, they reach somewhere around 16 feet, but there have been 26 footers. They can be found in different parts of the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans. There have been others spotted off the coast of Argentina and South Africa. A remarkable catch by two young fishermen has left Aussies in awe, with some admitting that they've never seen anything like it before. That's probably because the long, slender fish with the horse like head is hard to come by, an expert told Yahoo News Australia, with the sea animal rarely seen in waters around Australia. There have actually been quite a few sightings of the oarfish within different parts of eastern Australia and even down to the island of Tasmania, though there's only a handful if you go over to the southwestern edge of the continent. So it's much more common in the northeastern and not really in the panhandle though, but in the eastern coasts and the southeastern area. A photo of the catch was shared on social media last week, showing two top end skippers holding the mammoth creature known as an oarfish. There are only three species, with the giant oarfish growing to 8 meters in length. Professor Colin Brown from Macquarie University told Yahoo News. The marine biologist said, if people do ever see one, it's usually washed ashore already dead. They inhabit pretty much the entire ocean in tropical to temperate oceans and waters below 250 meters, so we rarely see them, he said. Yeah, oarfish tend to be found, or they can be found, somewhere between 1,000 to 1,500 feet below sea level. When the image was shared on Facebook by Taiwan Islands Adventures, Tiwi, it was Tiwi, it was Kiwi, Tiwi Islands Adventures, and shared by Fishing Australia TV, many likened the giant fish to a seahorse or mystical creature. The fisherman described it as a crazy creature. Giant seahorse, is someone commenting on the photo. Surely it's this big thing from Neverending Story. Another said, noting the iconic 80s film. I'll be honest, that movie scared me when I was younger. I don't um I didn't realize that it was a giant dog. They're also at the center of many urban myths and legends. Oarfish turned up before disasters, old Japanese saying, said one, it's a bad omen, suggests another. It's often referred to as the doomsday fish for this reason. Hmm. Speaking to Yahoo, Professor Brown said, in the past, people believed they rode through the water with their pectoral fins, but in fact, they undulate their dorsal fin to move. It may be that these fish are the source of the sea serpent tails. It is funny when you see some of these civilizations and they'll mention that, a certain fish will mean, end times or some disaster is about to occur. But you ask some Swedish or Norwegian guy from the late 1800s, he just puts on a hat and says, no, it means I can discover another species. He just gets really, there were many guys from Germany, the Netherlands, Sweden, Norway, England, even into Italy, all over Western Europe that made a lot of animal discoveries within the 1800s and then even to the early 1900s. Still today, even. Um, I'm just saying they would have found it quite amusing. Despite the historical references, however, not much is known about them. In fact, it's not exactly clear when they are known to frequent. It's thought they're found worldwide in all tropical and temperate marine waters. Although without many sightings, it's hard to know for sure. In Australia, there have been few public sightings, according to the Australian Museum, mostly around the northern states, including New South Wales, Tasmania, South Australia, and southern WA. There have been no recorded sightings in the top end until now. That's something else. Oh, okay, it's one of the stonefish. Oh, is that it? Okay, yeah, that's it. Okay, well, this was interesting. Um, I just see it as a positive side that there are oarfish now in the top end of Australia. Let me know what your thoughts are on this article in the comments, and thank you for joining Creature Guide Live. Now let's dive to the next article by Sign News. New species of ancient marine crocodile discovered in Germany. Paleontologists have described a new genus and species of Metriorhynchid crocodilomorph from the Stadthagen Formation of northwestern Germany. Wait. Oh, I pronounced that wrong. Oh well. Um. Oh, okay. So this is the Metriorhynchid, which is a type of marine crocodilomorph. So these animals inhabited the late Jurassic around 150 million years ago. There are over 20 different species that have been discovered. And this is an artist's impression of Ena Enaluetus schroederi. The newly discovered crocodilomorph lived in the shallow seas of Germany during the early Cretaceous epoch. No, period. Epochs for a very short area in time, between 140 and 132 million years ago. Dubbed Enoliotis schroederi, the ancient reptile belonged to the family Metrorhynchidae. Oh, well, if you're talking about crocodilomorphs in general, probably over 200 different species at least, over several different families. As you go further back in late Jurassic, if you're including other crocodilomorph families during this time, yeah, I'd say there are over 100 different species just from the Jurassic alone. Metriorhynchids had smooth, scaleless skin, flippers, and a tail fin. This is very true. Well, let me rephrase that. There were certain species that had more of an alligator-like sort of osteoderm covered body. So, like Steniosaurus, which was a Metriorhynchid, that could reach a length of somewhere around 15 to 20 feet. It was covered in osteoderms, but other species were scaleless. Explained Dr. Sven Sachs from the Naturkunde Museum Bielefeld and his colleagues. They fed on a variety of prey, including fast-moving animals like squids and fish, but some Metriorhynchid species had large, serrated teeth, suggesting they fed on other marine reptiles. Yes, it is possible that the Metriorhynchids would have fed on a variety of different species of saltwater fish, ammonites at the time, even the different marine ichthyosaurs, even going after young plesiosaurs, so the long-necked fish eaters that roamed the late Jurassic European seas at this point, and might have even gone after younger pliosaurs. So, as long as it's slightly smaller than itself, they had a variety of different types of prey that they would feed on. They are best known from the Jurassic period, with their fossils becoming rare in the Cretaceous. A perfectly preserved skull of Eneliotis schroederi was discovered more than 100 years ago by the German architect De Haupt in a quarry in Sachsenhagen near Hanover. The specimen is the best preserved Metriorhynchid crocodilomorph known from the Cretaceous period. This specimen is remarkable as it is one very few. I think it's supposed to be one of very few Metriorhynchids that is known by a three-dimensionally preserved skull. Dr. Hawks said this allowed us to CT scan the specimen, and so we were able to learn a lot about the internal anatomy of these marine crocodiles. Okay, so um, so best preserved Metriorhynchid crocodilomorph. Oh, it's I forgot. Yeah, early Cretaceous metriorhynchids. Um, okay, very nice. Good. We found another one in Germany. Yeah, they had very narrow snouts compared to today's crocodilians, even other different types of crocodilomorphs. So it's even quite distinct from something like a Garrel. A Garrel still has a crocodilian like, I mean, it is crocodilian, but it has more of a, I'd say, kind of a stereotype sort of crocodilomorph like skull. But there are a variety. If you look at terrestrial crocodilomorphs over in the Cenozoic era, so after the dinosaurs went extinct, they had a variety of very distinct skull structures compared to today's crocodilians. Very robust and not as long either. Crocodile. You look at saltwater crocodile; it's almost got like a decently cut pizza slice like skull structure. But the Metriorhynchids, they were much thinner. They were almost a bit closer to an ichthyosaur sort of a skull structure in some instances compared to crocodilians. Certain species of Metriorhynchid, like Steniosaurus, were a bit more like a Garrel in structure. Um, the remarkable preservation allows us to reconstruct the internal cavities and even the inner ears of the animal. Ineleotis schroderi gives paleontologists fresh insight into how Metriorhynchids were evolving during the Cretaceous. During the Jurassic, Metriorhynchids evolved a body plan radically different from other crocodiles. Flippers, tail fin, loss of bony armor, and smooth, scaleless skin. Dr. Mark Young, a paleontologist at the University of Edinburgh. These changes were adaptations into an increasingly marine lifestyle. Anileotis schroderi shows us that this trend continued into the Cretaceous, as Anileotis schroderi even larger eyes than other Metriorhynchids. Shouldn't it has even larger eyes? Which were already big by crocodilian standards. And the bony inner eyes were even more compact than other Metriorhynchids. A sign that Anileotis schroderi was probably a fast swimmer. It does look like with many species of Metriorhynchids that they were quite not only agile, so maneuverable, but even speedy in the water. Oh, yeah, it should say crocodilomorph. True crocodilians don't pop up until like the Oligocene, somewhere around 33 million years ago, with the true like crocodiles. um, the discovery of Anileotis schroderi is reported in a paper in the Journal of Systematic Paleontology. Okay, so this is good. We've found another early Cretaceous crocodilomorph or Metriorhynchid specifically within Germany. Um, let me know what your let me know what your thoughts are on this article in the comments, and thank you for joining Creature Guide Live. Um, no, okay. Let's go into the final one, which has been posted by Science News. U.S. seal populations have rebounded, and so have their conflicts with humans. Okay, so here we have a little adorable harbor seal. After decades of being endangered, seal populations have rebounded in North America. Oh, yeah, that's specific. You can be referring to California sea lions. Pretty sure they're okay. As well as northern elephant seals. Well, specifically the sea lions, the stellar sea lions. Um, New book explores growing tensions between the animals and humans, but maybe it was referring to other seal populations. It's just showing a harbor seal, so um hello there. Hey you, get out of there. There are only a few blah blah blah. Is this part of it? Yeah, okay. The couple no, I just want to see this what's happened. Oh no. Is this one of those articles where you think you're going to bump into it's going to tell you the different things that are going on with the seal. Instead, it gives you a long story about a couple people's lives. Um, well, just yeah, okay. I'm gonna go into the next article. Sorry, everybody. This is almost seems too opinionated. Okay, next one is posted by Live Science. I knew there were. I knew they were something special. New York homeowner discovers mastodon jaw fossils in backyard. Hmm. Very nice. A New York homeowner in Scotchtown, Orange County was thrilled to find mastodon fossils in their backyard, which museum staff plan to study to learn more about the last ice age. Whoa, that's pretty good. That looks really nice. Yeah, distinct mastodon teeth. Those very scissor-like serrations. This is not something that you find on a mammoth. Mammoth is going to have very flat, smooth surface, very small, rigid areas, almost like baleen teeth on a whale. Um, it's not a good comparison. I just mean the way you look at the ridges within a mammoth jaw. But this definitely mastodon. A New York resident has discovered the remains of an Ice Age mastodon in their backyard. The resident, who hasn't been named, discovered the fossils on their property near Scotchtown in Orange County. At first, they spotted two teeth protruding out of the soil behind the leaves of a plant, which led to the discovery of several bones, including a complete jaw, according to a statement released by the New York State Museum. When I found the teeth and examined them in my hands, I knew they were something special and decided to call in the experts, the resident said in the statement. I'm thrilled that our property has yielded such an important find for the scientific community. There have been a variety of different specimens of mastodon that have been found in New York State, even like within the New York City area. So mastodons were roaming New York when it was forested with trees a bit distantly related to, well, not too distantly related, but just different species of deciduous trees at this point. They did not feed on grass like the mammoths did. They were specifically designed for a leaf eating lifestyle and occasionally munching on things like bark. It's not to say that they might have not fed on certain things like fungi, but primarily they um oaks can be described as a deciduous tree. Hemlocks, maple. When okay, um, okay. This is the first mastodon discovery in New York State for more than 11 years. Wow, really? It's been that long? I thought they were more frequent, or at least there was a discovery much more recently. Hmm. Um, Researchers hope it will enable to gain a better understanding of the state's Ice Age inhabitants. Last Ice Age occurred between about 120,000 and 11,500 years ago, according to the National Centers for Environmental Information. There were a variety of different cold and warm instances between that period in time. So, um, that's not very specific. And if you're talking about the Pleistocene as a whole, that is just a sliver of the 2 million years. American mastodons, okay, American mastodons were shorter. They were much shorter than the mammoths, even the woolly mammoth. Even today's African bush elephants. I'd say mastodons were about the same height as today's African forest elephants. In some instances, yeah, they were shorter than the Asian elephants on the mainland, maybe about similar in height as to ones over in Malaysia, because that's the smallest subspecies of elephant today. So they're not reaching much more than 7 to 8 feet in height. 8 foot mastodon's pretty tall mastodon, but they were much more stocky compared to the mammoths. So they had just a bit more of a heavier structure to them. And their tusks, though, weren't as long as the mammoths either. But um, let's see. Oh, oh, Okay, here's the teeth. That's a better close up look. Oh, I thought it was gonna show us more of the specimen. I was like, wait, that's unfortunate. Orange County has become a hotspot for mastodon finds. It was home to a third of the 150 mastodons discovered in New York to date. Wow, that's that's astonishing. Not Orange County itself. Um, no, no, no. I mentioned earlier that mastodons are quite common to find in New York, but I didn't know Orange County alone had that many. According to the museum's statement, staff from the museum and Orange County Community College excavated the newly discovered fossils, which included a piece of toe bone and a rib fragment. In addition to the jaw and teeth, this discovery is a testament to the rich paleontological history of New York and the ongoing efforts to understand its past. Robert Vernack, the director of research and collections and curator of Ice Age animals at New York State Museum, said in the statement. Um, okay. Toe bone, rib fragment, in addition to the jaw and teeth. Oh, so much of the skeleton wasn't even discovered. That's strange. Researchers now plan to carbon date the fossils to find out how old they are. Then, by studying the teeth and jaw, the museum team hopes to learn about what the animal ate and how it interacted with other plants and animals, as well as its physical environment. This mastodon jaw provides a unique opportunity to study the ecology of this magnificent species, which will enhance our understanding of the Ice Age ecosystems from this region. Vernick said. Fossils are resources that provide remarkable snapshots of the past, allowing us to not only reconstruct ancient ecosystems, but also provide us with a better context and understanding of the current world around us. Each discovery like this one brings us one step closer to piecing together the full story of New York. That's it? Oh, no, that's something else. Okay, wait, no. Okay, well, it was unfortunate that they didn't find the rest of the body. I was really expecting them to find the rest of the skull. Um, Now they didn't say either whether this might have been the upper or the bottom jaw, but maybe it's hard to tell at this point. Let's see, was one up at yeah, it's a better picture. Yeah, I didn't find any feet, no tusks. That's always nice to hear. Um, but besides that, that is interesting. It's good to know we're still finding more in this area. Okay, well, that's it for the animal news of the day. Remember to like, comment, and if you love animals, share this show with everyone you know. You can catch our live streams on Rumble at 6 p.m. Central, Friday through Saturday, and Sunday, 3 p.m. Thank you for joining Creature Guide Live, because nothing is better than